welcome to the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff, the host of the podcast where we talk about all things HR, talent, HR tech, world of work. And I'm also the founder of Scale HR, and we focus on all things skills, upskilling leaders and HR teams. And so this podcast, we actually drop new episodes every week on Thursday morning normally. And they're shared on our website at GoScaleHR.com. Also on our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to, subscribe, it's a good thing because then you get notified when we new podcast drop, other videos, and so forth. Also like them, share comments. Obviously want to hear from you and to hear your thoughts on this because we always talk about things that are top of mind, sort of trending, and so if you want to hear about payroll and benefits, you're not going to hear it from me. So anyway, so we have a fantastic guest here today. But before we get there, I just want to set the stage, set the context here. And so the title of this episode is called "The Evolution of HR Tech: PeopleOS versus HRMS." So PeopleOS is actually one word. And so we're going to get into that shortly. All of you know that I made lots of comments over the last few years about how the HR tech industry has obviously grown rapidly, especially in the past decade. And if you're old like me, back in the day, 20 plus years ago, when we had to actually download software onto our servers, it was big, clunky, horrible user experiences, never worked, just very expensive. And then fast forward to today, everything is really about mobile first. AI, obviously, is a huge part of it, and it's really focused on user experiences, both the administrator and also the actual users of the software, and the list goes on. And so while we're going to get into the differences between the PeopleOS concept and the HRMS or IS, back in the day, it was all about the administration of HR, and it was all focused on the actual administrator at the expense of the user. And most people, if you ask them, so did you love your HR software? No, because you only went there when you needed to check your pay, make a claim for benefits, or change your address, or do something very administrative. Now it's a lot different, and the idea back then was to sort of cut paper, which it did, and really it was all about administration. Well, those days are over, obviously, and I think focusing on the administrative experience only is a huge error, obviously, today. The user experience matters more, than ever, and that's where this idea of the PeopleOS comes in. And it's the same idea of what we've been dealing with for many years, from product and services purchasing, is the hyper-personalization of the buying experience. Really, is so you're looking at buying a car, or you're looking at buying clothes, or you're looking at buying groceries, and you can even hyper-personalize that. So traditional methods of online experiences have changed, and the same thing is happening in the HR world. And so there's a lot to break down here. And so I have Noah March here of Dream Team, who's going to help us break it all down today. And Noah is based in the beautiful city of Tel Aviv, Israel. It's one of my favorite countries. And so Noah's here today. I want to welcome you to the Unmuted podcast.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been a long time coming, a lot of conversation to get to this point, but we're here. We're really, really excited to be speaking to you today a little bit about PeopleOS, where that differs to the traditional HRMS, and really present a cool new concept into the world of people and the world of HR, and the way we're going to work is different, and quite excited to share some really fascinating insight.
Absolutely. So let's hope that we can get to clarity on this. And so, before we dive into our actual topic here, maybe tell the audience, our audience, what you do.
For sure. So as Jeff mentioned, my name is Noah from Dream Team. Dream Team is a global HR tech company, and we've built our first PeopleOS. We'll get onto PeopleOS in a moment, but about myself, I'm the growth lead at Dream Team. I've been at Dream Team for nearly 2 years now, providing our PeopleOS software and our PeopleOS solution, a new way of managing HR and people management to the world, global companies everywhere. And, we'll get a bit into kind of the PeopleOS, but we're really just your new friend on the block, and an exciting little introduction and an exciting entry and an exciting new exploration, a new way of looking at things, exactly as Jeff said, moving away from our old ways into new and exciting ways of managing.
So you're talking about new friends on the block. That sort of, tweaked a sort of point here about, New Kids on the Block, which was a former, music band. So I guess maybe there was something about new friends on the block. But anyway, my really bad humor. Let's get into it, Noah. So thanks for that. So what are, I guess the big question is, to start off with is, what are the fundamental differences between the HRMS or the HRIS? I think they're both the same thing, and PeopleOS. What are the core functionalities that set them apart?
Well, really great question. Thank you for asking, and happy to kind of give some insight. But before I do that, I'd like to dive a little bit into what led us to develop the PeopleOS. And you touched on it a bit slightly, Jeff, in saying that the buyer's journey has changed, and what people are wanting is now an area of hyper-personalization. Everyone wants this whole concept of do it my way. And the reality is, with the changes in the way that we've been working as organizations and the changes that the world has seen, we do now realize more than ever, every organization is different. And because every organization is different, every organization runs a different culture, and every organization needs a different set of tools to have the culture their way. If it's standardized, it becomes a bit more modular. Now, when we discuss kind of this whole concept of hyper-personalization, we get into this whole world of PeopleOS. And what is PeopleOS? And I'll give you a really cool little analogy, and I'm going to use my props right next to me, which you'll see in a moment. We've all used Lego. Everyone has used Lego. And the core of a PeopleOS is your Lego board. It's your single place to literally take things and build what you want. Now, a typical HRMS and a typical HRIS provides you with modular functionality. These modular functionalities are, let's call it your presets, your performance reviews, your time, your attendance, anything designated. And we kind of like to look at that as a bit of a designated piece, like a fence, a little Lego fence. Now, when you start building on top of that, you do get some form of customizable solution, but it's within the bounds of what you've been set. A fence is a fence, and it can't be anything different. Just as a performance review in an HRMS can't be anything different. And really where this gets more exciting is that's a module. What PeopleOS really does, and where we're excelling and where we're seeing this change in the market, is we're bringing in this hyper-personalization, an app. And we'll get to what an app is, but really what this is it's a standard Lego piece. A piece that you can break apart and you can build it up and you can decide how it looks. Bring in an external source. Maybe you're developing it internally. Maybe you're building it the way you want to build it. Now, what this gives you in a high level is an ability to design your own platform. Obviously, within a PeopleOS, you're going to get your HRMS functionality, but you're getting more. You're getting that ability to quite literally take the designated pieces, build a house the way you want to build it with the apps, and then build a fence on top, which is a designated piece. Now, look, this is your own solution, and it's totally up to you. And that's the beauty of Dream Team. And that's the beauty of PeopleOS. We're providing you that designated functionality, external apps that will interconnect to everything. And an external app, we can get into that. But that is a way to connect your entire organization to all of your people efforts. HR doesn't need to work siloed. HR is interconnected to finance, to IT, and to all processes. And it all relates to people. At the end of the day, it's a people system. But what is a PeopleOS in a quick nutshell? It's really your ability to build your own system, to be your own interior designer, to take what you were saying, Jeff, of this hyper customization and personalization, and to really allow it to be yours. You're an organization that is a quick little startup, but you do not need to adopt a banking culture. Why is an HRMS adopting a specific culture? Whereas in PeopleOS, you're building that yourself. And that is really the fundamental differences.
So that's really good. I kind of wish that you would have told me that you were going to use Lego, because I have a whole box of it over there, like in the corner of my office here. That's fine. That's fine. So how about one question, just a follow-on question? But before I get to that, I just want to ask another one, which is, and you kind of touched on this already, but what how has the landscape, the HR tech landscape, evolved over the past decade? I mean, what are some of the key trends that have driven that shift from the old school to HRMS to a PeopleOS? Like maybe there's one or two things that sort of, were like at the top of your list.
Great question. Let's break it down. The two things at the top of our list and the two things that I researched was, the first thing was global recession. Companies no longer have the budget to spend multiple hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars on multiple systems. Everyone wants that single source of truth. Now, what's happened in the market and what we've seen over this kind of period is, especially with these budget trends and the changing way of work, is that you're getting a core functionality within an HRMS. And an HRMS is trying to be your one size fits all. However, when we come back to what we just discussed, one size fits all is going to work for a small little company, but it's not going to work for a large company, and vice versa. So you've now got the HRMS that is attempting to be a one size fits all, but you don't have a specific functionality that works your way. Performance reviews, for example. Let's say you're in an HRMS and you don't like the way they do performance reviews, you're stuck. So what does come about is niche solutions. And really that emergence of niche solutions, like a specific performance review solution, a time solution, a tracking system, an onboarding system. You've now got multiple sources of truth. So now you're not centralized. But not only that, you're now stuck paying for two different systems because you don't have the best in breed, but also you don't have your single source of truth. And really this whole, let's call it flattening of the landscape, has pretty much given rise for a really unique ability for some form of hybrid to fit in. A centralized solution that you're paying for, that you're comfortable with, and you're comfortable with the price, but also a system that you can build on top your way. So you don't have to be stuck buying niche solutions to fit your best of breed solution. And really this whole flattening of the changing way of work and the budget constraints has really created a cool little, let's call it a microcosm of organizations that don't have hundreds and hundreds of dollars to spend on multiple.
Sorry to cut you off. I just want to push back a little bit, because I think it's really important. I mean, obviously what we've seen is solutions that are core HR solutions, and they have integration with other solutions. So your single source of truth is still your HR solution, but you're bringing in data from other parts. And so I want to know, obviously, in that kind of a structure, yes, you are paying for multiple systems, but the integrations are strong. So what's the difference between that kind of a concept and then what you're talking about as the PeopleOS? Because don't forget, the user here, the user themselves are HR leaders and practitioners who may not totally understand all of it. So how would you break that down?
Great question. So we're obviously not contesting the fact that integrations are a great solution. Integration is pretty much an app. It's a little Lego piece that you're deciding to build in itself. And that's really your way. If a native integration works well, we are 100% for a native integration because it allows you to be connected. However, what you aren't getting today, we're believing in the current market, is native integrations that fit your way. Native integrations are there because they need to centralize the data. Now, it's usually one way. And let's give a basic example of a performance review. You don't like the whole concept of the way that your HRMS is doing performance review. You go to another niche solution, a best in breed, and you integrate it directly. But you're now still stuck customizing another solution to customize Dream Team, to customize your HRMS, and you're now no longer compounding. The beauty in a PeopleOS and the concept of a PeopleOS is that a native integration is there to provide you that framework, but is there to provide everyone the framework, every single person in an organization that framework, to compound multiple times. Now you have a performance review that you're doing in an external solution, and you integrate it to a solution, a PeopleOS like Dream Team. Let's say an employee exceeded their targets by 25%, and you want to create a little process where you're providing an employee a little bit of an incentive. Now you're integrating to another best of breed solution, or you built your own solution on top of that because of the PeopleOS infrastructure. We're compounding to an overarching theme of people. It's no longer singular integrations, but rather exponential growth within an organization across all people facets.
So that's an excellent answer. I just want to get to so my next question kind of segues into the next one, which is so we've talked about some of the benefits, but I think what are some of the challenges that organizations may face when making this transition? Because I think that is a really important part of this. What do you think?
It's a really good question, and the reality is change is always hard. I work with customers every single day, and there's always a pushback. And we can say what we want and we can say what we believe, and even though we provide a 10-day process to get started, there is still contention, and we still get that pushback, and that's okay, because change is a natural process, and it's average. It's not that it's average. It's all right. We're not fighting the change. But when you're moving over to a solution that's enabling you to be your own interior designer, that change is worth its while. That change is worth its while for you to really remove from that rigidity. It's not as much as a challenge as a benefit. It's really an ability to say, let's break the barriers of HR being just the people function. And let's provide it to an entire organization. Let's spread it across to every single user and every single use case in an organization.
I mean, I'm like, as you know me now, I mean, I've always been at the sort of the cutting edge or the front of technology. And I probably told you this in the past that I view everything like in a bell curve. It doesn't matter what you do, it's always a bell curve. There's obviously your early adopters, and then the main group of people that are sort of in the middle, and then you have your laggards, right? So everything's the same. The same thing here. Now, the reason why I'm asking a lot of questions about challenges and that, because this represents a very different mindset. It's a huge shift because you're talking about an industry that doesn't change overly quickly as a sector, as a profession. And so what we've seen for the last 10, 20, 30 years, it's a very different thing. And so, trying to break through all of that to make it work is probably very, very difficult. And I'm not saying that don't do it. I'm saying yes, let's do it. But I think people need to realize that we need to sort of step outside of their comfort zone and then at least sort of entertain it and sort of learn about it and educate about what this is first, so that they can get that comfort level to actually do it.
I mean, you're right. And I mean, I can also double down on that one. And I'll tell you really a use case. I can give you a really great story of what happened. It's a key example.
Well, that was my next question. Let's talk about like a real world example, case study. You can select one organization that, maybe perhaps they were stuck in their old ways. They were using a hodgepodge of tools. They went and they shifted to a true, PeopleOS.
That's a great question. Yeah, let's discuss it. And I mean, I like to use an example, and there's been multiple of these, but a key example that sticks out in the back of my head is a customer of ours who works globally. They've got offices in the US, in Canada, and in UK. They're a 100-person company, and they moved from a very large HRMS because they didn't have that customizability. What happened? They moved to Dream Team at our very beginning, when we were literally just your square. We had your square and we had a little bit of modules. We had an ability to store your data, and we had basic fields and the ability to run workflows and simple processes. Obviously, we've grown from there. What happened was the customer turned around to us and said, look, I need you to do a performance review. I need a performance review module. Build it for me. I had it in my old HRMS. I need it in Dream Team. Promise you, with a lot of fighting, we came to the realization we are not building the performance review module. But what we did, in contrast, instead of spending 9 months of development time on building a performance review module, we built a little bit of an app. And an app was a field, a specific field called a rating field, an ability to rate an employee from 1 to 5 on an aspect. And I'm not even joking, Jeff, this is the craziest thing. The customer called us within a week of launching our field and said, guys, you've built performance reviews. I've got a performance review because I've got your functionality. I've got an ability to run a workflow in terms of your modules. And I took the app and I built a performance review. And the way of thinking shifted completely. This is just one example. We have the same example for a asset management. An IT manager in a large company of about 300 employees turned around to us, I need to build an IT asset management. Instead of building an entire directory of 9 months, they took the call, they took the workflows, and they added a field. The field that we added for them was a checkbox, a simple checkbox. And if we start breaking this down, you start building this entire world quickly, efficiently, and your way. Like we mentioned, it's this hyper-personalization. They weren't stuck in a specific aspect, a specific way of doing things. We gave them the tools, we gave them the modules and the apps, and they built their own house, a house that they're proud to stand on, and a house that represents their culture and represents their organization. I mean, PeopleOS, OS backwards is so. I tell all my customers this. OS backwards is so. You can do so many things. That's the goal of it. You can literally do whatever you want.
So here's the big question, and so we're getting to sort of, at the end here. 2 letters, AI. So what does AI fit into all of that?
That's a really good question. Looking ahead and looking into the roadmap of PeopleOS, and I'll jump back for a second and say, look, I really believe we're not going to be the last PeopleOS. This is a new emergence. The emergence of the ability to create specific apps, AI apps, maybe a chat box. Let's give an example. We've got a customer who wants to build a chat box. They've started building a chat box on top of our foundations. They took the app, they took the functionality, and they built it on an ability to have a VP People AI. Their way. Now, they're going to upload it to Dream Team, and then they're going to be able to monetize it, creating a creators economy, selling it to other Dream Team users. So that's one way we see things changing. But AI is just really the tip of the iceberg. You got now all the machine learning modules and all the abilities to check things. And because we're all speaking together and all your apps and your little modules are all interconnected, AI also has more power in a PeopleOS. Give an example. Let's turn around and say, I want to ask my VP People AI, hey, did we overpay Noah this month, or is Noah underperforming? We'll look into your app. We'll look into your performance review little area. We'll take a little piece of data from your onboarding and a little piece of information from your salary expectation, and we'll give you a little bit of a jumbled answer, and we'll say, hey, Noah didn't get paid too much. He got right. This is his salary benchmark, because we're connected to your salary benchmarking through an app. And this whole interconnectivity is really where we see the future of this technology going, through an AI, through other types of models, but through a way that we can create an entire new category of HR and people systems to move away from that unique HRMS where it's HR focused, it's in a little ball, to move to a new type of thought process where we're compounding. We're leveraging the ability to have AI and all these emerging technologies to think for us, to remove that manual work, but to connect every single person and every single people ops process in an organization together.
So I have one last question for you, to sort of end this, fantastic episode, which is, what is one thing that someone watching this episode can do to start the process of figuring out this whole concept of, PeopleOS? Because obviously there was a big wall there. And I can say that with absolute certainty that there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, this is sort of, beyond me. And so what is one thing that they can do today to kind of shatter that big wall or whatever it is to, being open to this kind of thing?
Amazing. And I really love that question.
Aside from me taking my golf clubs or my baseball bats and like swinging ahead, which I don't do, but I'm just saying. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
I really love that question because it's what I do. Part of my job as growth lead is help customers find the pains. And obviously we love working with people in Excels that don't have systems. But really what I'm saying is if you do have a system and you do have a traditional HRMS, a traditional HRIS, take a sit back, look back, and actually ask yourself, are we actually connected? But not only are we actually connected, is this the way I want to do things? Did I build the performance review this way because the system dictated that? Or do I build it this way because I wanted that? And look at these processes, your onboarding, your maternity leave, anything related. Just ask that question. And I guarantee you that 85% of the time, our research really shows that you build the solution because that's what's been dictated. Really?
No, you're absolutely right on that. I mean, I think, like, honestly, I mean, for most HR practitioners and leaders, that are looking at technology and software, skip over the whole thing, which we call business, requirement, which is basically looking at, okay, so this is what we need and don't need. Like in our tool, this is our business strategy, this is our HR strategy. And then once you have full clarity on that whole bucket, then you go out to market and sort of find the solutions that kind of fit together that will help you run your organization.
Correct. But also, I mean,
people don't do that though. They skip over all that.
Tripling down on that whole concept is that the current system is module based. It's the piece that's been built. So,
well, I mean, that's how consumers, whatever it is.
And that's the challenge. Consumers are coming with the concept of saying, I need to have a fence, I need to have a performance review, I need a module, I need a feature. We have been looking at a feature forward approach, whereas we need to take a retro and say, let's look at the pains. Is the feature really solving my pain? Is it doing exactly what it needs? Or do I need to have the app to build on top of the feature in order to make it work for myself? Because that's the power of true hyper-personalization, exactly what we spoke about earlier.
And on that note, I think that is an excellent, ending point. I think it's all about the personalization. So, for those of you watching this, you can really think about, how we can sort of change our mindset about technology in the HR world. So what you've known for the last 10, 20, 30 years, it's pretty much obsolete now. So if you have any further questions about this, you can always find me, but I can always put you in touch with Noah and the fantastic team at Dream Team. You like that? Team at Dream Team. And also, once again, the Unmuted Podcast lives on our YouTube channel, on our website as well. You want to hear from you, like the episode, add your comment. Want to hear from you. And so, Noah, I want to thank you for being here today, and I look forward to many more conversations about this.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It was a pleasure being here. And as always a pleasure speaking with Jeff, and always a pleasure speaking to people about this whole new concept of PeopleOS. It's not as scary as we think. And when we break it down, we'll break it down together. Audio Jungle.